Rania Svoronou, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It's great to be here.
Happy to hear that. So everybody these days is talking about AI. What do you think about that?
I think everybody feels overwhelmed by that, and it's true. Wherever you go, whichever corner you go, it's all about AI.
So from my perspective in the construction industry, AI infiltrated, I want to say like 2 years ago with the automatization of like simple tasks of coordination of submittals, distribution. And it has reached to a point that right now with AI, you can do full takeoffs when it comes to project management, review of submittals, identify errors. So I wanted to have a conversation with someone from the front line because I think like when it comes to design, it was the first industry that was impacted by AI. So you're the best person to have that conversation. And aside from that, I would like also to discuss the topic of being in corporate America as a woman.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm pretty sure that you have...
I have a few things to say about that.
I would like to hear, the challenges that you faced. But I'm going to start with an introduction. I don't think that you need one, but I will give you. Based on my analytics, 98% of my audience is men, and probably all of them are from the construction industry. So here we go. Rania Svoronou, you're a head of design at Citibank, leading the design and strategic innovation of personal banking and AI-enabled services for millions of users. Previously, you held senior global design leadership roles at IBM, where you earned recognition as an IBM Inventor and drove large-scale experience systems across the 5 continents. You hold a BA in graphic design and a master's in interaction design, and you have named across Greek America's 40 under 40 rising stars. That is just the tip of the iceberg. Probably I missed a ton of things, but if I had to read everything, we'll be here till the cows come home, all right? So I'm gonna have entire bio in the description with all the links where they can find you.
Great.
Let's jump into it. Where'd you grow up?
Oh, wow. Well, whenever those lists come out, it gives away my age. I start thinking about that. At the beginning,
young.
It was under 30, then under 35, now under 40. So I can see the progress, So I was born and raised in Athens, Greece, with my family. And I started drawing at a very young age, but all kids are drawing. And so it wasn't something special back at the time, but it's something that apparently my family would say, we would lose you for hours, Rania, when you start drawing. So that was big in my bringing, and also Athens, Greece, history was big into art. And I would say by the time I was 15 years old, I knew I wanted to do something with art and design. I wasn't sure what, but I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then when I was, I think I mentioned 15 years old, I think I read a book. It was, ironically enough, it was one of the most prominent graphic designers at the time, Paul Rand, that created the logo of IBM. And I was 15 years old, right? So I was like, so this person, one of the biggest design figures, is the one who coined the term graphic design. So I was like, I don't know what this guy is doing, but that's what I want to do. And ironically enough, 10, 20 years later, I ended up at IBM. So that was the beginning of the journey. And I would say at high school, I was the artsy kid at the back of the class, not that social, like the weird one that wears pink and black and just draws all day.
Were you a good student?
I was a goodish student. I was like...
What do you mean goodish?
I was like, if our metric in Athens was up till 20.
Okay.
So I was around the 16, 17, you would say. So I was a good student, but not the best student. I was also terrible at maths. I hated maths, actually. And because my mother loved maths, it was like, what, are you going to be, an artist? But in a way, like, you're never going to make a job out of being an artist. It's funny when you think about that. So that was kind of like what I really love drawing. I love history. I was good with kind of philosophy. And I went to also the International Baccalaureate system. That is when at 15 years old, they prepare you to study abroad. So since I was 15, I was actually kind of getting on a path to go and study abroad. So I had a lot of different kind of course and classes to prepare me for that.
When did you take the decision to leave your country? Like, was it like a moment in time that you said, I don't want to stay in Greece. I want to just explore, other countries and other cultures?
Yeah, so that was definitely some, I would say, nudge from my parents. Because when I told them at 15, I want to do design, they were like, okay, let's see what's in Greece. And then they were like, if you want to do design, we would send you abroad. And my dad also actually studied in London. So that was kind of an obvious choice for them. And I left at 17. Now that I'm thinking about like what I was thinking, 17 years old, because that's when I finished high school. I went all the way to Newcastle, not London. I wanted London, but my parents wouldn't let me to go to London at 17. North England, for those other ones that don't know, very cold. And because I was 17, they wouldn't even accept me at the bachelor. They said, you're underage. So I had to have a foundation diploma of art and design before I get to my bachelor, because I was 17 years old. So I remember like my first 2 weeks, I go there and the teacher's looking like, what are you doing here? You're like 17 years old. So it was, I guess I learned that I had to figure out from a very young age. Very different culture, very different setup. But yeah, now looking back, it was all worth it.
Were you homesick?
Yes, very much homesick at the time, and my friends. And I really, really wanted, and I really thought I would live in Greece. I never thought I would live abroad all these years. But I went back in 2010 where things were not great, as we know back then, with the job market and everything. And I remember I was looking for my first designer job, like graphic designer. The market was rough. I was going around. I ended up in some warehouses in Athens, knocking on doors, trying to find a designer job. I was literally all out sending emails. So I did that. I landed a few jobs, unpaid at the beginning. I had to go through that as well. Then some internships. And after 3 years working in Greece, and I ended up actually in the advertising industry in Greece, which is really hard. So I get into that. And then I realized I need to get out with the things I wanted to do. I wanted to follow technology, interaction design back in the days. And that's what made me go back to London and have my master's in interaction design. So it was kind of a back and forth journey. And I'm glad I did that, because at the beginning, I thought I wanted to do branding for my master's. But I'm glad I paused and I worked to see what I really want to do. And it's also the academic world with a professional are so different and actually are so detached that I always encourage, even when I mentor younger people, like, take a pause. It's okay. Work, see what you like before you pursue, if you want to pursue a master's or a PhD or anything else. So I'm really happy I did that, because that's how I ended up in the technology path in the end.
So you went back to London, as you said, you did your master's, and then you went and you worked for IBM.
So my first job was, I had a short stance before IBM at Unilever.
Okay.
So I know, because Rania and IBM, it's kind of like the thing that's out there. Yeah. It's synonymous, trust me. We'll talk about that. It was really hard to leave IBM. So I had to find a job as a designer now. I had my master's and felt, here we go again from scratch. And again, going through interviews, LinkedIn, jobs, no network, no nothing. Because I know a lot of people say, you can't find a job without a network. Yes, you can. If your job is to find a job and you're committed and you're determined and you're good, yes, you can. So I always say that, because I have heard way too many times, you can't find a job without a network. Yes, you can, is my answer. So I did that. I interviewed for Unilever, and that was my first kind of design technology job that I got. And the interesting part is nobody cared about my work experience in Greece, which was devastating, because I was like, I have 3 years of experience, but they did not count. They didn't count it as much. And instead of getting into my head, oh, why? I was like, okay, I have to play the game here and I need to know how to show up differently.
Yeah.
So I got that job at Unilever. At the same time, I had just applied at IBM through a referral through a friend. And while I'm at Unilever, everything is going well. I'm on the third month. IBM responds to me and say, we would like to see you. I'm like, why not? I've got nothing to lose, right? That's another interesting part. You should never say no.
Paul, just for interjecting, how did you feel when you be contacted by IBM? And the reason why I'm asking, you mentioned earlier, right? You were like a young kid looking into the guy who designed the IBM logo. And now, a couple of years later, IBM is at your, front step.
So it's interesting. I didn't think of it that way back then because IBM at the time I was looking for a design job was not as popular. They're super popular now. And I really feel I built my career in the golden era of IBM design. But back then it wasn't a place you would think about. So in my mind, and my friend was doing like business and strategy and said, Rania, we're opening a new design studio in London. IBM is going all in on design. I was actually hesitant. I was like, are you sure? So at one point I was like, it's IBM. I want to, see what they're going to do. On the other end, in my mind, I was still in the advertising agency kind of space. So it was interesting. And I'm glad I listened to my gut. And I said, let's see what they're planning to do. And then through the referral, they interviewed me, a lot of interviews, 6 months, I think it took.
Do you remember the number?
I think they were around 6 sessions. But back then, the interesting part was, again, for a junior position. So that is always interesting when you change jobs and you think careers. Let's say I was mid-level designer with some level of experience at Unilever, and IBM Consulting specifically was coming in and saying, no, you're coming in as a junior here if you want to come in. So we had group exercises, we had tests, we had behavioral tests. It was intense back then. They don't do this anymore. If you didn't have merit on your bachelor or master's, they wouldn't even consider you. Back then it was actually pretty strict just to even get in for an interview. I think they changed it now. And I'm giving it a try. I was like, I have nothing to lose. I'm at Unilever. And I go through the process. And then I had an offer. And I had to make a decision. I'm 5 months only at Unilever. And now, IBM comes along. And that's where you want to be, under quotes, I learned careful, who do you take advice from, right? Because you had to decide that Unilever is an amazing company. Why would you go? It's going to look bad on your CV. How many times you've heard that? Just stay a year or two. And then you had, thankfully, the one I listened, the other side, that said, IBM is building something new. You want to get on the wave now.
Yeah.
And that's what I did, with lower salary, more junior title. But I was like, I can see the potential to go far.
So we're talking about IBM Europe. When did the IBM USA chapter started?
Oh, I love this story. Yeah. So that was IBM London, indeed. That was in London.
I assume London covers the entire Europe, right?
Yeah, it's one of the main hubs.
Okay.
It's one of the major hubs, actually, the IBM UK. Absolutely. It's one of the major hubs. So I had also great network and built a great relationships with IBM US and the rest of IBM Europe. I was traveling all the time. Again, consulting lifestyle every week on the plane is not for everyone. It's definitely going to test you. So I did that. So I was a design consultant. And then there was a point I was in a really good place. The work was good. The exposure was great. Interviews, awards, IBM, all great. And there was a point that I go for a coffee during a weekday with one of the executive partners back then. I was like a design lead, right? Mid-level, nothing special. And we're just having a regular coffee. And he basically asks me, Rania, have you thought what's your next move? And I'm like, not really. Everything is going great. And I'll never forget that. I said, when everything is going great is when you need to think of your next step. I was like, why? Because you don't want to fall Because if you fall, then you're going to make the wrong decision. So when you're at your peak, or you feel you're at your peak of the year or of the phase you're going through, that's when you want to make your next move. And I was like, okay, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. It's like, think about it, come back tomorrow. It's like that person. Matt was his name. And that it happens that night I go back home, got the gym, and I put the TV on and I put Sex and the City.
Of course.
Of course, right? I was at my 20s. I was in my late 20s. And I don't know, while I'm watching the show, I get a glass of wine. I'm like, I've never been to New York before that, right? Bear in mind. And I was like, that seems pretty cool. What if I move to New York? What if I move to the US? Bear in mind, I know nobody in the States. I go back the next day. I said, I know what I want to do. I said, what? I want to move to New York. Okay. Do you know how? No. Then you have to figure it out. And that was the beginning, where I talked with IBM UK and IBM US. And basically they said, look, we're only, of course, taking the best talent. I needed sponsorship. And that was the point where they said, we believe in you. We want to invest in you. You're one of our top talent. And it took a year. I'm not going to lie. It took a year connecting the dots. So just to get here, I say that to many people that want to do that through work, you have to earn it. Nothing is being given. Even to come here as an immigrant, you have to earn it. So I did that, and IBM sponsored me, moved me to New York, and now they say good luck. Now, an interesting part on all this journey, you had people that were very supportive, of course, and there were people that were not supportive, right? There were people like, that's never going to happen. That's where you need to know when to block those voices.
Your roles have brought you across different countries, different cultures. What was the experience that shaped the way of your thinking when it comes to design?
The way I see it, we're one. It's interesting to say that, like, I could never have a life without design in it, and I could never design because it's part of my life. So I found something in my parents' house in Athens. It was something I've written when I was 15. And I actually brought it here in New York, and I have it framed in my bedroom. I'm 15 years old, and basically I'm writing a whole essay about why I'm pursuing art, that it's a way of my life, and that I don't know how far I'm going to go, but I want to try. I want to build new things and do big things. I was 15 years old, right? I was just getting an art class, but it was so ingrained to me that this is my way of life. So I need to figure out that I never separate the two. So for me, it's like, okay, I have that natural talent, thankfully. Now I have to put the work. So my love about the craft, it shaped me, it shaped my passion. And then I knew I had to work on my mindset, right? The resilience. I talk a lot about creative resilience, about, okay, you might have a dream, but how do you get there? So that has been throughout my life of like, okay, what is the next step? How can I keep learning? How can I keep growing? And step by step, reach the point where, again, those two things for me is together. Even the way I'm in my personal life, right? I say sometimes with my friends, everything, we go out, the way I dress, like, everything for me is design around me. It's my way of life.
Great. Before we jump to the main topic, let's take a break, all right?
Okay.
I hope you're enjoying the episode. And if you do, please like, comment, subscribe, share the content with your friends. But more importantly, thank you for watching. All right, we're back from the break. We're going to cover the main topic that I was looking forward to it. So AI is rewriting the rules in every industry. From your perspective, what part of everyday life will be transformed first? And what will be the last change that we're going to see?
So I'll say what we're seeing already, right? The ChatGPT era, as we call it. I've been on way too many discussions about AI across industries. Everybody's on it from a business perspective. And I think it scares people more and more. So the first thing I would say is the things that are more process-oriented or task-oriented, like admin, rewrite an email, give me tips for like a travel, like things like that it's already happening, right? People are literally say, in the past we used to say Google it, now we say ChatGPT it or something else that's going to be in the future. So the first thing is the things that are more like the mundane one or part of the research that can just become faster and better. This is already happening in everyone's daily lives. Now, there are the ones, of course, that are more advanced and they're going to use it maybe more for like their professional life or even the personal life. Actually, I was at a big roundtable with executives at a big consultancy, not IBM, the other day. And they were giving us all these statistics. And the number one is that people are using almost as their therapist, their companion, like advice. So we can touch more about that, but that's an interesting one, that we start trusting ChatGPT more than humans. I think this is just the beginning. I think no one knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years. No one, even with the futurists that I'm talking, the evangelists, the ones that are, again, we're working with it every day. No one knows what's going to happen in 5 years. There are some predictions, but nothing is accurate because things change every month. Now, back to your question. The one thing, again, I see is changing is the way we're interacting, we're behaving. It's like the .com, right? The internet, when it first came out, some people were aware of it, some people were scared, they were not sure, but now it's part of our lives. That's how AI is going to be. Now, the things that in the professional industry, that's a big range. It's going to happen every single industry. It's already happening. Now, some of them, of course, are going to have a bigger effect than others, depending. I always say the more digital it is, the biggest impact is going to have. And I was reading somewhere that said, like, look, the people that are actually creating something with their hands, right? The sculptors, electricians, plumbers, these are the ones who actually should be worried less with AI. So it's very interesting how we're going back to human nature and building things with our hands. So I think the ones that are going to be most influenced at the beginning are the process-oriented items, data, all of those things, more digital. And the ones that are more in the physical world, right, rightfully so, are the ones who's going to take more time to get impacted.
From your perspective, do you see people who are being averse to the advent of AI? I see that. I see a lot of people, they are adverse to it. And when I say a lot, it's a large percentage. If I had to, throw a number, I would say, 20, 50% of people are averse. They say, I'm not using AI, I'm old school. I say, okay, good luck, Ten Kanziski. Pack up your stuff and live up in the woods, AI is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. So I'm curious, from out the industries, if you see a large percentage of people like either being adverse or, they're using AI for very, simple tasks. Like, for example, like rewriting email, which it's nothing based on the capabilities that it has. Rewriting an email, correcting grammar or whatever, those are like trivial.
So yes, I've seen both sides. And actually, and I've given talks about it as well, because I'm someone who actually supports the fact for people that the sooner they get to use it, the better it's going to be. And we've all heard about that is not AI taking your job, is somebody using AI that will take your job. That is true, absolutely, right, to any shape or form. So I've seen people where they're resistant, of course, and regardless of age, right, of course, usually the elder are the more resistant, but I've seen that across ages. And then I see some people that made the transition, as I said, because they tried it for something small. That's what I mean, right? I always say start small, right? Because sometimes, again, AI, if we think about how it's been portrayed in, Hollywood and movies and the Skynet, right? We're not prepared for that. People are afraid of it as if that's what's going to happen. But it's not like that, at least right now. Right now, it's really a very, very powerful tool that is changing and will keep changing the way we work. There's no other way it's going to happen. And it's as if when the internet came out, eventually everybody's using the internet, right? It's the same thing. If you're not using their internet, you say you live under a rock. It's going to be exactly the same with AI.
So do you see AI creating more creative roles in your industry or eliminate them?
Both.
Both.
And I'll give an example. Back in the days, so we have a lot of design tools. Some of the most popular ones, like right now, is Figma. It's the Adobe suite, the Creative Adobe suite. Most people are familiar with. When the Adobe Illustrator came out for the designers, right, it was the first kind of like digital tool. Everybody freaked out in the creative industry. This is the death of design, of craft. What's going to happen to the designers? And in some shape or form, yes, some things would be replaced, but there's no designer today, almost, right, that does not use some type of tool or the Adobe tools. So I'm saying it's kind of the same thing. Now it's scary. It's going to replace a few things, but the whole idea is replacing some, let's say, parts of the creative process to create new ones. For example, if I wanted the most common one, if I want to create a campaign and I had to do 30 different ideas and spend the time to do those 30 ideas, now it's going to be much faster. So I can pick those top 2 ideas and then go and execute them and actually spend the time to execute them, right? Or when I had the creative brief or in the research process, a lot of things will be replaced, yes, but a lot of new things, we haven't even thought about them, will come into the light. Same thing before iPhone. Who would ever thought there would be, a mobile application? Now we have this every day. It's part of our life. But before iPhone, the idea in the mainstream industry of a mobile application and, all this industry that created was non-existent. So I really think it's going to create a whole new industry that we might not be even aware of.
Do you think it will create also like new requirements or set of skills for newcomers?
For sure. And I think the biggest challenge is for the newcomers. It's for the ones that are getting out of college, right? I know that's where the biggest worry is, the junior positions. That's where I also say doubling down on the soft skills. The reason the conversation, again, in all leadership tables, going back to the soft skills strategy, creativity, problem solving, resilience. The reason almost all leaders talk about those skills is because this is truly, again, what separates us, being human versus being a robot, right? So I say double down on the soft skills. And of course, if you have a craft, if you have a technical skills, right? Again, if you build a building, right? Of course, you need to have the technical skills. This still needs to be there. But if you're more in the digital industry or the creative industry, which is my industry, you really need to double down on the soft skills and the creative and the problem solving and a growth mindset. That's what I say, frankly, to all of the new designers that are coming in. And the other thing on the craft part, I think AI will separate the bad, the good with the great.
I like that saying.
A lot. Because you're not going to be able to get away with it. If you're great, and if everybody, let's say, democratize the tools, right, with the whole AI, and let's say you have 3 designers and they're going to create the AI tool and they can have similar output, it really is going to separate who's bad, who's good, who's great. That's where, for me, the true talent will show actually even more. The true skill, the way of thinking, the uniqueness, the personality. So I think there is a huge opportunity for more authenticity. If you use the tool as a tool, right? Because you don't want to just have a copycat. So I think it's going to separate a lot of that in the industry, which is scary at the same time, but it's also interesting what we're going to see in the future.
Interesting. I would like to switch gears.
Yeah.
Go to the next topic, which is being a female in the corporate America. Based on your trajectory, you have operated at the highest levels of corporate America. What was a challenge that you face specifically because you're a woman?
There are many.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many. Where do I start? I mean, I always say I tick all the boxes. Woman, immigrant, young. I tick all the boxes, right? I sometimes joke with that.
Is it harder being an immigrant than being a woman?
I can't speak for others, but being a woman and an immigrant, it definitely adds up to the equation. Yes, it's both. Now, it's also different depending where you are. For example, because we talk about corporate America, I had different challenges in the UK and I had different challenges in Greece.
I would like to concentrate in the challenge that you face in the US.
So in the US, the one thing that I really actually respect and appreciate is that most people that come here with work or for work, they've been through some hurdles, right? They deserve to be here, most of them, again, because just to come here is so hard. So the one thing I say is there is a form of kind of unwritten rule of respect that, okay, you made it here, so there is a reason you made it here, but now you have to prove us that you belong here. So the first thing is there is like, the door is open, especially New York, right? It is a city that is built by immigrants, let's be honest. So there is this welcome of like acceptance that, okay, but then it's that extra step. Now you have to prove us that you deserve to be here. So there is the second layer. So when I moved here, I was probably the only one on my team. Maybe I have one more example that first of all were immigrant and women. And I never let that stop me or define me. I actually never even used it, as a card. Like, oh, I'm a woman. I'm like, never. In my mind is always, can I do the best work that I can? The differences that I've learned here is you have to advocate for your own self and your own work for someone to notice, to support you. Like being in the corner, being the best you can in the corporate world, it doesn't work like that. And I hear that all the time. But I do such an amazing work. And my question is, yeah, but who knows about it? So the number one thing I've learned with the US is important to have the substance, the work, but it's equally important to make sure you kind of advocate for yourself. And I found that very interesting. And that's where I was at the point, okay, what is my strength? That is my work. Now, who do I need to connect with? Who do I need to network with? It's a job as well. People think networking is like soft. No, it's actually very important, and to do it right and for the right reasons as well. So the challenge I had, I would say, was more to figure out the culture in New York and the culture in the US that was different from the UK. And once I figured that, okay, you have to do the work, you have to definitely prove why you're here, then you had to make sure the right people knew about your work.
You mentioned about a moment where you realized that you have to advocate yourself in a different way than your male colleagues. Mm-hmm. What was that moment like? Can you just expand on it?
So that started actually in London. It started in the UK.
Okay.
That's where it started. And then when I brought it to the US, of course, I just had to adjust it to the culture and the environment and the work here. But it started in the UK when I saw some other like female leaders back then, executives, and how they would operate. And they mentored me. I had a lot of good mentors, right? It's nobody's self-made. Nobody's self-made. I had a lot of amazing mentors. And they are the ones, especially those female executive mentors that I had and I still have, that they taught me that. They taught me how to walk the room. They taught me that if nobody knows your work, it doesn't matter. So I've learned those behaviors by working back then, right, with my mentors at IBM. But then it's also how you do it. There's usually the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. I mean, there are blurred lines. There were people that would actually not glad about it, right? Or the people they might say, oh, you're showing off, right? Or why are you talking about your work? But if you do the work and you only present the work, it's a very noble thing to do. Now, if you don't have the work and you just do the talking, that's where the problem starts. And I never did that because a lot of people that will, talk about something or pay more attention of how to present something than the actual work. For me, is do the work first, then talk about the work, and then go back and do new work. So I always had that exchange, even on my career, the way I did like a project, and then I would go, let's say, in stages and communicate it, and then I would get back and do the work. So I've been doing that kind of curve. So it's walking that fine line without going too much on the talking. Let the work talk and then just support that artifact. It's, as I say, I call it the Tiffany bow. It's like, be the Tiffany ring, but make sure you put the Tiffany box on the Tiffany bow.
Interesting. I like
that. That's literally my mindset. But you still need to have the Tiffany ring, but don't forget the box and the bow. And that's kind of like, if you see your work and what you do like that, that's what I call having the whole package. And it takes work to do that. Yeah.
I disagree on one thing that you said, that no one is a self-made. I believe people are self-made and they had great mentors. I think this is your case. You have a very interesting story. And I wanted to ask you, through that trajectory, right, from warehouses to Citibank, what was the most proudest moment that you had? Was like a decision that you made in a project or a project itself?
I have two because they're connected. So I'll say the first one. Getting accepted and moving to the US has been the hardest thing I've done and the thing I'm the most proud of. Because that's really when you know what you're made of. That's the number one thing. And the second thing is actually a project that I did back in IBM UK, London. That was from a mobile application for BP. Very hard project. I was all in. And that's the one, though, that put me on the map as a designer within the company and in the industry, that then everything else followed and also helped for me to come to the States. So they were connected, but I didn't know at the time.
You're talking about the BP app that you use at the gas stations, right?
Yes.
Believe it or not, I'm using this app.
I designed it 7 years ago. I'm sure it's changed since then.
Yeah, they have revamped, but the baseline, I think I'm pretty sure that is the same.
That was the work that, again, I've done a lot of projects, a lot of work. That was the one that put me on the map back then as a senior designer, but it's also the one that I put literally blood, sweat, and tears. That I remember when we launched, I was crying. And everybody was like, why is she crying? Oh, because it's been through some stuff to get it out. So it's that kind of emotion when you put something like all in to make it happen.
Life is full with peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And I always say beauty lies when everything is great, but also like when everything goes, down the drain. Was there a moment during your career, during your stay in the US, where you said, maybe this is not for me? Maybe it's like too much, too big of a pond. Maybe I need to go back.
Oh, I'm laughing because there were many times.
Yeah?
Oh, yes.
How did you overcome them?
Oh, yes, many times. I'll say the major ones, I guess, the milestones. The first one was when I moved to the States. 7 months later, COVID happened. Borders closed. Exactly. I was just 7 months in. Visas, renewals, not being able to leave the country. All of those things happened after 7 months I was here. So I think I was testing from the get-go. Like, are you staying? Are you really staying? That was the first one, the first hit.
It was tough.
It was very tough. And the ones who were here in the city, because I lived in Midtown, I was here when they were blocking everything, all the shops. And I was here when everything was happening. They were happening underneath my apartment. So it was tough. And that's where I actually grinded more. I was like, I have two options. Either pack my stuff and go and say, yep, that wasn't for me, didn't work out, or double down and triple down. That was the first real test of the moment. And it wasn't like something that happened for a month, as we know. It's something that lasted really, really for 2 years. And so that was the first major moment. And then I moved to Miami after that because I was like, look, if I'm going to survive, I need to get my head together. And with the job that I had, I moved to Miami, and I knew I had, again, everything that went through COVID and all of this visa process. And then I had a little bit of beach yoga, sunsets. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Now back to New York. And everyone would say, you're crazy, Rania. So you're telling us you moved to Miami, you had the pretty great life, consulting, flying around, all good. And then I decided to move back to New York. I was like, yes, absolutely, because the time has come. Now I'm ready to go for round two. So it's those moments where every choice you make will define the next step. But it was always in my head. It's like the go big or go home, which sounds so cheesy. There is a reason we have it here. I think that's the only way. There's no other way to be in New York. And I say that by being, 5 years, let's say, in New York City, 7 in the States. There's no other way, I think, to survive in this city, especially if you count with your dreams, with your work and all of those things, if you don't have that mentality. And it will test you. I remember once a podcast, I don't know if it was Oprah, I can't believe I'm quoting Oprah, but I will, that says New York is one of those cities that will test you to your core if you deserve to be here or not. And I believe in that.
100%. Frank Sinatra said it.
Exactly.
Frank Sinatra. What advice would you give to young women trying to break into leadership roles today?
First of all, to have that ambition and dream if they want to not hold back and ignore the naysayers. That's the first step. You have to believe it. Because if you don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it for you. So I'll never forget, I think I was 20, I said one day I'm going to be a chief design officer. So first thing, you have to believe what you want to do. Second, follow it relentlessly. There is a lot of sacrifices, right? But again, that shows you how much you want something. And the third one that is a great advice, actually, one of my mentors gave me back in the UK. It was like, which you might have heard, is like, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. So many things, many times, again, moving to the US or some of the projects, like a lot of things, that you can navigate that. It's like you have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed. You have to be committed, even when you cannot see what's next, right? You cannot see what's coming. So having that mentality that don't ask for permission to do something, just go and do it and see where it's going to take you. I still have that mentality. So that's the thing I would say. Just go all in. If you want to do it, go all in.
That's great advice. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Rania, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure.
Likewise, that was a great chat. Thank you.